Shalom, and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of a Shabbat sermon with Rabbi Adam Kligfeld. Yaknehaz.
Yaknehaz. Yaknehaz.
Bless you.
Raise your hand if you have any association with the syllables Yaknehaz. All right, more than I thought. Raise your hand if you have any idea how the specific coincidence of Pesach beginning on Saturday night is connected to Elmer Fudd. That's my sermon. That's it. Yaknehaz is an acronym, 5 Hebrew letters. It stands for the following 5 words, and it has to do with the order in which the 5 different blessings that you're going to say at Kiddush on Saturday night are recited, because Kiddush for Pesach on Saturday night is also connected to Havdalah for leaving Shabbat. Yud stands for Yayin, Borei Pri Hagafen. Kuf stands for Kiddush, right? The blessing over the Mekadesh Yisrael Hazmanim. The Nun stands for the light, the Ner. You're not going to use a Havdalah candle, but just the candles that you've lit for Yontif or any of the lights in the room. The Hey stands for Havdalah, the bracha that you're going to say, not making a distinction between Kodesh and Chol, between sanctity and mundane, but between Kodesh LaKodesh, from the sanctity of Shabbat to the sanctity of Yontif. And the Zion stands for Zman Shechiyanu V'Kiyumanu V'Gyanu LaZman Hazeh, Yaknehaz. And how does that relate to Elmer Fudd? Does anybody have a Haggadah where anywhere in the Haggadah there seems to be a picture or a painting of people hunting rabbits? In German Haggadot from the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th centuries and 18th centuries, near the page of Kiddush on the Haggadah, there was an image of a hunting party out to hunt rabbits, which seems like a very weird non sequitur, unless you realize, and I'm going to screw this up in German, that the phrase Yaknehaz means hunting the hare or hunting the rabbit, and Yaknehaz was evocative of Yaknehaz, or Yaknehaz was evocative of Yaknehaz. So it's a very strange thing that this notion of people out hunting for rabbits is associated with this 5-letter Talmudic acronym for the order of the blessings for what we're going to be doing 1 week from tonight. If you look at the pages of Talmud that deal with the rabbis trying to figure this out, turns out that Yaknehaz was not the only one suggested, the only offer. It just won the sweepstakes. There's Yan Kahaz and there's Yaz Kahan. They're all suggested and rejected. Only Yaknehaz won the sweepstakes. And there's a disagreement between Rav and Shmuel, who also disagree about the order of things or the meaning of things in the Haggadah as to which one to follow. And Rav won that argument. Rav was the one who suggested Yaknehaz. Rabbanit Liz Shane, who's a recent graduate of Yeshivat Maharat, the institution in New York ordaining Orthodox women for the rabbinate, wrote the following. I imagine many of us have discovered the convenient inconvenience of dissolving boundaries. Our kitchen tables have become our offices. Our workplace is now a school. And our carefully delineated spaces and times merge into one another. Yaknehaz reminds us that actions need structure if we expect them to maintain internal coherence. To create a sacred experience, we need all our ducks or rabbits, in a row. Both Shabbat and Yom Tov deserve our full attention. And with the framework of Yaknehaz, we create space for each to receive its due. Seder night is a night of order and structure. That's what the word Seder means. We make meaning not only through content, but also through organization. Yaknehaz may sound funny, but it teaches us how to care for the chaos in our lives by noticing the character of the individual pieces. This year, Yaknehaz returns with Pesach beginning on a Saturday night, but it has more poignancy, I think, than previous years. We put this Havdalah, this ceremony of distinctions, in the middle of Kiddush. We marry a transition to a transition, a liminality to a liminality, from dark to light, from sacred to profane, as we begin the biggest holiday of liminality, celebrating going from slavery to liberation, and some of our people are still enslaved. Depending on which articles you read, you might have noticed that Havdalah has played an outsized role in this unending drama of the Israelis who remain in captivity in Gaza. It's become a ritual of transition for those who are stuck where they are. If you want to cry, after Shabbat, look for a video online of Rabbi, R-A-B-I, leading Havdalah. I promise you, if you put into Google Rabbi Havdalah, you'll get it. He led Havdalah at Beilinson Hospital hours after his grandson Elia Cohen was released from Gaza this past February. After nearly 500 days in darkness, he celebrated the transition to light with his friends and with his Saba. And as you may remember, many of these releases have taken place on Shabbat. Hours later, the sun set. It got dark. It's time for Havdalah, the transition of all transitions. It's such a hopeful ceremony, Havdalah. It recognizes darkness, but it blesses the God who made and still makes the distinction between darkness and light. The sun always sets. The week always ends, but it also begins and the sun rises. The ceremony links us to Purim and that liberation from annihilation to triumph. We say at the end of the paragraph before the brachot, Layudim aita rav simcha v'som v'yakar. The Jews, after that trauma, had light and they had joy and they had gladness and they had dignity. And we say, Kain tielanu, so may we. We say this just before the leader raises the Havdalah cup and says, Kos Yeshuot Esa. This is the cup of deliverance. This is a big ritual. How's it going to feel when we do it this year? Those hostages recently released have given testimony of others who are alive. We hope and we pray that there are at least 24 who will return alive one day to their families and live through that Havdalah, that distinction. One of the ones that we hope and pray is alive and who was just told by someone who came out recently that he was alive, you know his face, even if not his name. His name is Avinatan Or. His girlfriend is Noah Argamani, one of the faces and scenes that first told us of the horror October 7th. Hamas terrorists surround them in an open field, rip them apart from one another. There's a look of terror on Noah's face and helplessness in Avinatan's, and then they are driven away in separate directions on the back of a motorcycle. Noah was released a few months ago. This is Avinatan's second holiday of freedom spent enslaved. Second holiday of the light of liberation spent in the darkness of Gaza's Hamas tunnels. One of his former teachers, Neely Bressler, recently wrote this about Avinatan. She wrote, Avinatan's mother, Ditza, gave him the perfect name, Avi Natan Or. Our father gave us light. And so it is. Avinatan, she wrote, is a beacon of light in a tunnel deep beneath the ground. If you close your eyes, you can feel his light glowing in that dark, unforgiving place. I picture him there in a tunnel, sitting on the ground, his ridiculously long legs stretched out in front of him, waiting to come home. His spirit glows. His inner light is shimmering. though perhaps flickering by now, weakened by hunger, thirst, and pain. Flickering maybe, but never extinguished. How do we invoke Avinatan Or's Or, his light, as we mark our transition this year? If you've been to Israel since October 7th or have seen some of the videos, you know that there are daily gatherings, amongst other places, in two places in particular, in Hostage Square in Tel Aviv and outside the home of the Prime Minister's home of the Prime Minister in Jerusalem. And there have been, and you can see videos of this, some amazing, powerful, haunting Havdalah ceremonies at both places. Amidst all the hubbub, there's a pause. People of all religious observances and no religious observance. People are pausing either to actually bless the God of creation and of light of dark for those who believe, or at least to honor the traditional Jewish ritual that marks the transition from holiness to the profane. All these people come together to end Shabbat together. And then they get back to the chanting, the protesting, the vigils, the singing, the crying. It happens every Saturday night. How will it be for them in 1 week on Seder night? I want to make a suggestion that we turn Yaknehaz from a silly acronym, albeit with serious halachic and ritual implications, into a somber moment of reflection. Amongst all of the things you are doing to prepare for your Seder this year, give yourself the task of looking up at least one of the hostages and tell his or her story and share his or her light as you begin Seder this year. And as you're holding that moment, check in with the people around your Seder table. How are they doing? How are they keeping from being numb, inured to the days approaching 600 in captivity? Check in with yourself on a deep level. You know, we don't say the bracha of Besamim when we go from Shabbat to Yom Tov. And the reason is the Besamim Avtalah are sort of a smelling salts. Supposed to like awaken us and give us energy for the long week ahead before we have the sanctity of Shabbat again. But since we're going from Shabbat to Yom Tov, we don't need such smelling salts because Yom Tov is enough of an awakener. But we all might need such a lift, such a whiff of sweet fragrance. What do you need to breathe in order to revivify yourselves as our national trauma continues? What happens right after Kiddush on Seder night? Kadesh Orchatz. For many, the most meaningless and silly ritual at the Haggadah. A hand washing that's not needed, a ritual with no blessing. Maybe this is the year to turn Orchatz from symbolic to utterly real and powerful. How blessed we are and how lucky we are and how liberated we must be. How freely we must exist if we can wash our hands and have someone wash them for us, even when there's no real need to. This year at Orchatz, let us think of their filthy hands somewhere in a tunnel, Gaza. When we wash our already clean ones, realize how fortunate we are. Our people do not wallow. We don't observe our holidays with survivor's guilt. That helps nobody. We must, both despite and because of the deprivation of our brothers and sisters in captivity, take hold of our Pesach with joy. Hunt that hare and do the Yaknehaz with gusto. But let the themes penetrate deeper this year. As we read about Rav and Shmuel argue about how to trace the Haggadah's arc from Gnai to Shevach, from degradation to praise, from low to high, from dark to light. Let us use everything to which we have access because of our freedom and redeem our people, finally, from enslavement.
You've been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast website or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information on Temple Beth Am, Los Angeles, go to www.tbala.org.